The light begins to settle in a way that feels heavy and purposeful, anchoring the space between the glass and the greenery just outside. There is a specific kind of silence that exists only in the narrow strip of land between a house and its boundary, a quiet that suggests the world has narrowed down to just this single, reachable patch of earth. The air is cooling, carrying the scent of damp soil and the hushed resonance of a day that has finished its work. Through the frame of the window, the garden appears as a series of soft shapes, losing their sharp edges to the gathering shadows. It is a moment of profound transition, where the interior life of the home meets the slow, rhythmic breathing of the outdoors. Nothing moves, yet there is a sense of immense depth in the stillness, a feeling that the garden is folding in on itself for the night. The reflection on the glass creates a thin veil, a layering of two worlds that exist in perfect, unhurried harmony. One can sense the weight of the air, the way it clings to the leaves and the wooden frame, creating a cocoon of domestic peace. This is the hour when the proximity of the garden to the walls of the house feels most intimate, a shared existence that requires no words and no action. The fading light catches the very edge of the frame, a final glimmer before the blue takes over completely, leaving only the memory of the afternoon sun. In this space, time seems to widen, allowing for a long, slow observation of the way shadow moves across a familiar surface. It is the beginning of a long pause, a breath held at the edge of the evening. The path leads the eye through a space that is rarely seen by anyone but those who live here, a hidden corridor of calm that hugs the side of the home. There is a rhythmic quality to the arrangement of the ground, a sequence of textures that absorb the morning light without reflecting it back. The bricks of the house wall provide a steady, warm backdrop, their presence felt as a protective barrier that keeps the rest of the world at bay. Here, the air feels differentialer, perhaps, and slightly more humid, held in place by the proximity of the structure. The light filters down in uneven patches, illuminating the small details of the ground and the way the moss seems to drink in the moisture from the night before. There is no hurry in this passage. It is a place designed for slow movement, for the simple act of noticing the way the shadows of leaves dance across the solid masonry. The scale is intentionally small, a private world that exists in the few feet of earth between the dwelling and the fence. Every element feels intentional yet effortless, a natural extension of the home's own quiet energy. The silence here is layered, composed of the distant sounds of the neighborhood muffled by the solidity of the walls and the density of the growth. It is a transitionary space that invites one to linger, to appreciate the subtle shifts in tone and texture that occur when light meets a confined area. The morning sun reaches down in thin, golden needles, touching the damp stones and bringing out a richness in color that will fade as the day progresses. It is a study in the beauty of the overlooked, the quiet corners that define the character of a home. The courtyard is a room without a ceiling, a contained pocket of atmosphere where the sky is brought down to earth in the mirror of a water-filled basin. The light today is uniform and soft, casting no harsh shadows and allowing every hue of green and gray to resonate with its own quiet intensity. There is a profound sense of enclosure here, a feeling that the walls of the house are embracing this small patch of nature, protecting it from the wind and the noise of the outside. The surface of the water is perfectly still, broken only by the occasional, invisible movement of the air. It reflects the gray expanse above, creating a focal point of light in the center of the dark earth. Around the basin, the garden sits in a state of patient waiting, its various heights and shapes creating a landscape that feels much larger than its physical dimensions. This is a place of absolute stillness, where the passage of time is marked only by the slow movement of clouds reflected in the pool. The domesticity of the space is evident in the way the architecture and the garden intermingle, the stone and the leaf existing in a state of mutual respect. There is a weight to the air, a comfortable density that suggests a place well-loved and quietly tended. The lack of direct sun allows for a clarity of vision, a way of seeing the garden in its most honest and restful state. It is a scene of deep composure, a reminder of the peace that can be found in a small, well-defined space where the only activity is the slow drift of the day. The afternoon sun is beginning its slow descent, casting long, golden fingers across the small patch of grass and the perimeter of the garden. From the vantage point of the porch, the world feels sheltered and serene, viewed through a natural curtain of swaying green. The light catches the translucent edges of the leaves, turning them into glowing embers of color against the deeper shadows of the house. There is a warmth here that goes beyond temperature, a visual glow that speaks of the end of a long, quiet day. The garden seems to exhale in this light, the plants leaning toward the warmth as if to catch the last of the energy before evening sets in. The domestic scale is highlighted by the way the light hits the fence and the corner of the building, defining the boundaries of this private sanctuary. Everything is soft, the sharp lines of midday having melted into the amber hues of the golden hour. The stillness is punctuated by the way the light shifts, a slow-motion transformation that changes the character of the space minute by minute. It is a time for quiet observation, for watching the way the glow moves from the center of the yard to the tips of the tallest shrubs. The proximity to the house provides a sense of security, a feeling that this beauty is a personal, intimate gift. The air is still, holding onto the heat of the sun even as the shadows grow longer and the first hint of cool air begins to stir. It is a moment of perfect balance, a pause between the activity of the day and the rest of the night. The morning begins with a veil of mist that clings to the textures of the garden, softening the world into a palette of muted greens and grays. In this corner, where the earth meets the foundation of the home, the atmosphere is one of damp, quiet mystery. The ferns are heavy with moisture, their fronds bowed under the weight of microscopic droplets that catch the light in a dull, silvery sheen. The stone wall, solid and ancient feeling, provides a grounded contrast to the delicate, feathery growth at its base. There is a sense of deep time in this small space, a feeling that the moss and the stone have been in conversation for years. The air is thick and cool, carrying the sharp, clean scent of wet earth and waking plants. Everything is muffled, the mist acting as a natural silencer that keeps the focus inward on the small details of the garden. The light is diffused, coming from nowhere and everywhere at once, eliminating shadows and creating a world of pure form and texture. This is the garden at its most private, a time when the boundary between the cultivated and the wild feels thinnest. The proximity to the house is felt in the structured lines of the wall, yet the plants seem to have reclaimed this small niche for themselves. It is a study in the resilience and the quiet grace of the domestic landscape when left to its own devices in the early hours. The stillness is absolute, a meditative pause before the sun breaks through and the mist begins its slow evaporation. The gate stands as a silent sentinel between the front of the house and the hidden depths of the garden, its dark metal softened by the persistent reach of the ivy. The midday light is clear and steady, illuminating the intricate patterns of the iron and the varied shades of the leaves that weave through it. There is a sense of invitation in the structure, even in its closed stadia promise of the quietude that lies just beyond. The ivy moves slightly in a faint breeze, a gentle rustle that is the only sound in the afternoon stillness. The house itself is just out of frame, but its presence is felt in the way the garden is organized around the gate, a deliberate transition from the public to the private. The light plays across the leaves, creating a tapestry of highlights and deep green shadows that give the scene a sense of depth and life. This is a place where time seems to have slowed down, where the growth of the plants is the only thing that marks the passing seasons. The domesticity of the setting is emphasized by the scale of the gate, sized for a person and a home, rather than a grand estate. It is a modest, beautiful threshold that speaks of the care taken to create a sense of place. The air is warm and still, filled with the quiet energy of a garden in full bloom. It is a scene of simple, uncomplicated beauty, a reminder of the peace that can be found in the transitions of our daily lives. The morning sun hits the side of the shed, its white surface reflecting a clean, bright light onto the cluster of flowers below. The garden is waking up, the colors of the petals appearing vibrant and fresh against the weathered wood. There is a charming, unpretentious quality to this corner of the yard, a feeling that beauty has been allowed to flourish in a small, practical space. The light is crisp, casting short, sharp shadows that define the shape of every leaf and stem. The air is clear and cool, carrying the faint sweetness of the blooms and the earthy scent of the garden waking. The scale of the shed reminds us that this is a working domestic space, a place where the tools of the garden are kept, yet even here, there is a focus on the aesthetic and the atmospheric. The flowers sway gently, their movement a subtle reminder of the life that fills this small residential plot. The silence of the morning is profound, a calm that feels both restorative and energizing. The light slowly climbs the wall of the shed, a steady progression that marks the beginning of another day in the life of the house. Everything feels in its right place, a harmonious blend of the built environment and the natural world. This is a scene of quiet optimism, a celebration of the small, bright moments that occur in the corners of a home's exterior. The stillness is not empty, but full of the potential of the day ahead. The path is a canyon of green and brick, a narrow ribbon of space that feels entirely separate from the rest of the world. In the late twilight, the colors have begun to drain away, leaving a world of deep textures and silhouettes. The light is a memory now, a faint glow in the sky that barely reaches the floor of the path. There is a sense of great density in the hedge, a wall of living matter that provides a soft, dark contrast to the hard surface of the house. The air is cool and still, the sounds of the evening muffled by the enclosure. Every step forward feels like a deeper immersion into the heart of the home's private exterior life. The ground underfoot is a mix of shadows and the faint outline of stones, a tactile journey through the dark. This is the garden at its most mysterious and protective, a space that feels entirely safe and secluded. The scale is tight, intimate and focused, drawing the attention to the immediate surroundings and the feeling of being held within the landscape. The stillness is heavy, a blanket of calm that settles over the path as the day finally ends. It is a moment of reflection, a time to appreciate the boundaries that define our personal spaces and the peace that they provide. The house wall is a constant companion on one side, a solid presence that anchors the garden to the dwelling. The birdbath sits in a state of quiet grace, its stone surface darkened by the moisture of an overcast day. The water inside is a perfect circle of gray, reflecting the flat, even light of the sky above. Around it, the garden bed is a compact arrangement of greens and browns, a miniature landscape that centers the small yard. The lack of direct sun creates a mood of contemplation and rest, the colors of the garden appearing deep and saturated. There is no movement in the water, no ripple to disturb the reflection. It is a point of absolute stasis in the middle of the growing world. The house is a subtle presence in the background, its windows observing the scene with a silent, domestic gaze. The air is still and humid, holding the quiet of the afternoon in a way that feels permanent. This is a space designed for looking, for a slow appreciation of the way stone and water and plant life coexist in a small, defined area. The scale is perfectly suited to the residential setting, a focal point that doesn't demand attention but rewards it. The silence is not a lack of sound, but a presence of calm that permeates the garden. It is a scene that captures the essence of the quiet life, the beauty of the small and the stationary. The birdbath, simple and functional, becomes an object of meditation in the soft, diffused light of the day. From the threshold of the home, the garden unfolds as a familiar and comforting landscape, bathed in the gentle warmth of the early sun. The patio, with its weathered stones, is the bridge between the interior and the exterior, a space of transition that feels both open and enclosed. The light stretches across the lawn, highlighting the dew on the grass and the soft edges of the flower beds. There is a sense of beginning in this view, a feeling of the world opening up in a quiet, manageable way. The garden is small and bounded by a fence, a private kingdom that belongs entirely to the house. The air is fresh and filled with the promise of a peaceful day, the silence broken only by the imagined rustle of leaves. This is the ultimate domestic view, the one that greets the inhabitants every morning and offers a moment of serenity before the day begins. The light is golden and soft, avoiding the harshness of later hours and casting a benevolent glow over everything it touches. The proximity of the plants to the door makes the garden feel like another room, an extension of the living space that just happens to be under the sky. It is a scene of profound contentment, a visual representation of the peace that is found in a home and its garden. The stillness is a gift, a quiet moment of appreciation for the space we have created for ourselves.